Hi everybody, welcome back to Midvale Minis. I'm Kat, and this is where we left off the Colonial shop project in the last video. This is a little bit of an overview. I wasn't happy with the walls. I had painted the walls after trying to remove the glue, wasn't really happy with it, and I haven't touched anything for the interior of the windows. So right now I'm starting with the windows. I'm painting the cross pieces or the mullions for each of the windows on the inside. Now this is just a base coat. I will be putting pieces of wood over it, but just in case the wood didn't cover everything perfectly, I at least wanted to have a base coat. Next, I'm going to take joint compound and spread it on in an even coat over the inside of the walls of the dollhouse. Now, I kind of want to have some pattern here, some texture. I don't want it to look perfect. I want it to look like it's from the 1700s. And here's what the downstairs looks like with my coat of joint compound. I really like the texture. It's hiding the glue issues that I was having. And if you look in the back there, you see that sort of darker line. There was a huge gouge in the back. It's filling into the gouge. It's still a little wet, which is why it's two different colors there, but overall I am really pleased with this texture. I think it looks very reminiscent of plaster, and I just am very pleased. Now it's time to take my palm sander and try to get some more of this glue off of the base of each of the rooms. And when I'm done with that, I use my piece of sandpaper and do some hand sanding. And clean it out and decide I still need to work on getting some of that glue off, so I use my hair dryer and pull off some more of the glue. And now it's time to use the same method as I used before with the joint compound. When it's fully dry, I sand it and vacuum it out one more time. And now it's time to paint. I tried using a roller and I didn't like the texture that it was leaving, so I decided to go back and use a brush. Next, I turned my attention to the windows. I found this gallery glass clear plastic plexi. I measured the amount of window I would need by tracing a line around the outside of the window. This gave me a rough measurement without trying to reach in and measure inside the dollhouse. This plexi is very easy to cut. When I got the correct size, I peeled off both outer layers of protection. And put some glue on. My initial thought was I was going to put it around the outside edge of the window on the inside, but it didn't look right. What I need to do is, as I'm demonstrating here, push the plexi in up against the mullions. So I have to slightly recut the plexi and paint the inner edge of the window, and then glue it in. Now I'm cutting pieces of wood to cover the mullions on the inside. Again, I'm using the outside as measurements because it's just so much easier. I love this adjustable cutter. If you don't have one and you're going to do a lot of stuff in your dollhouse, I highly recommend it. Next, we're moving on to wiring. So my husband was available at this time, so I stopped doing my windows and I asked him to draw out the line where he's going to put the wires. The wires will be underneath the floorboards, but here he is using a tool to do a light etching so he knows where he's going to actually carve the groove. And now he's doing the actual groove. I really prefer the hard wire method rather than the tape method of wiring dollhouses. So that's what he's doing here. Now I've painted my small mullion window pieces and I'm gluing them in. I'm actually gluing the pieces of wood right to the plexi. And here's what they look like glued in. And now I'm moving on to the other windows. It's kind of hard to tell here, but what I've done is I've put a double layer on the lower portion of the window so that it looks like one part of the window can slide over the other window and that the window can actually open. Obviously it can't open, but I love those tiny little details. And now I'm cleaning off the extra glue with a toothpick. And here's what it's looking like so far. When this window was put in, it wasn't put in flush with the wall and there's a slight gap. So I'm going to have to fill that with wood filler. And here it is after it's all filled in. Now that the inner pieces of the window are done, I'm turning my attention to the outer pieces. I originally bought this piece of wood, but it's too thick. I feel like it's a little bit out of scale. So I'm taking another piece of wood that I have and cutting it to the same width as the piece that I purchased for this. The difference in the thickness is the original piece that I purchased was 1/8 of an inch thick, and this one is 1/16 of an inch thick. Now I'm using my trusty cutter and cutting each piece to go underneath the windows. Sanding off the edges. And painting it the same color as the mullions. And now I'm going to angle my cutter and create the top piece for each of the windows. I cut and dry fit the side pieces as well, just to see how they would look. The bottom piece is going to be the windowsill, and then I have another piece underneath it. That's another decorative piece. Now I'm just gluing them all on each one of the windows. The process I'm showing you is only a couple minutes long, but I will tell you it took me about 6 hours to measure, cut, paint, remeasure, recut, trim, glue on all of the outer pieces of the window. But you know what? I absolutely love how it came out, so it was time very well spent. It's kind of like when you're going to paint a wall and you have to prep and sand and do all of the things that you don't really want to do, but then when you get to the end and you put the color on, it looks fantastic. I can't wait for the next step. Thanks so much for joining me here, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this project. I hope you're having a fantastic week, and I'll see you in the next video.